What's going on, everybody? This is Paul, your hip-hop relationship and recovery coach, and I'm bringing to you again another episode of Kick Your Butt Out. Before I drop into the content, I want to say what I always say, and I need you all to always hear this so that you can incorporate this into your life, and that is, if you're looking for a butt, it's going to always be easy to find one. Just that simple. All right, let's get off into this content for the day. So Monday's episode of Kick Your Butt Out was titled, But You Want This and That. And we kind of talked about how we can't get to our this or operate effectively in our this or receive our this or be our this because we won't let go of that, because we want to hold on to that and we want to take that in with this. The other thing that I talked about was how in many cases, we'll get to this, right? And this has its seasons. So it'll end up turning to, in this season or in this time, that this will turn into that. And we have to get a new this, but we still want to hold on to the this, to the that used to be a this. It's not that complicated. Hear what I'm saying? And then we wonder why our healthy relationships elude us, why we can't operate or not operating in relationships that can be healthy and ultimately end up crashing or, separating or whatever the case may be because of the fact that we want this and we want that. Well, today's episode of Kick Your Butt Out is called But You Want This and That Part 2. And I'm going to talk about it from a recovery standpoint because this definitely applies to recovery as well. And some of the reasons why our recovery foundations aren't solid, our recovery time or lives aren't consistent, and there's no longevity in our recovery lives. So I'll start off again, but you want this and that part 2, and I'm going to talk about it from a recovery standpoint. So let me give you an example. Back when I was still living in Milwaukee, I had attended a recovery group at a church, and it was a pastor that was the facilitator of it. And one night at the group, he had given me 2 books. He said, put these 2 books, one in each hand. So got the 2 books, one in each hand. And he said, without putting either one of those down, without putting either one of those down, I want you to grab a hold of this book out of my hand. And so, like many of us, this is what I did. I tried to grip it with the 2 books that I had in my hand. Obviously, it was ineffective. And obviously, he said, no. I need you to grab the book just like you have those books in your hand. And obviously, couldn't do it. And so he said, okay, now do me a favor, put both books down, not one, put both books down. Now grab this. Obviously, I was able to grab the book. The moral of that story was, we're holding in our hands that is nothing. That is not ours. That's harming us more than not. And we need this, and we can't get to this because we're still holding on to that. And it's not going to be until we let that go that we can get this from a recovery standpoint. And that made a whole lot of sense to me because in those times, in those days, I wanted recovery, which was my this. I wanted a new life, which was my this. I was tired of the old life, which was that. But I still had a grip on it with both hands. I still had a grip on that with both hands. And what that meant was that was the old people, the old places, the old things, the old way of thinking about those people, places, and things. From a perspective of, I'm looking for that. I mean, for this from a recovery standpoint, but I can go, this is in my reserve. That is in my reserve, right? That is in my reserve, meaning that at some point I could, hold on to this and have it on the side and then go over there and indulge in that. And my recovery was always a failure. My recovery always wasn't consistent. My recovery always lasted very short periods of time. 6 months, 4 months, 7 months, 8 months. I don't think I ever got more than 8 months outside of jail or prison without using or, a life of recovery. Because again, that was still in my reserves and in the back of my mind. I would go, first of all, that included being around new social settings and new communities. One of the things that Maul, who's with Eric Thomas's team, one of the things that he says is your level of success is dependent upon your level of exposure. And those are some of the reasons why I didn't have great success in my recovery, because I didn't stick to the things that I was exposed to from a recovery standpoint as much as I stuck to the things that I was exposed to from an addiction standpoint. I didn't stick to the things that I was exposed to from a this standpoint as much as I stuck to the things that I was exposed to from a that standpoint. And I would always find myself, after I relapsed, after I went back to use, after I lost everything again, even my freedom, sitting up there, looking up to the sky and asking God, how did I get back here? I hate this the most. This is not who I am. You've already told me this is not who I am. You've already called me to other things. You've already called me to other places. You've called me to other people. You've called me to this. And I know what this is. I have a clear picture of what your this is for me. And I keep ending up in that. What's going on? How do I keep doing this? Doing these things that continue to put me back in that situation. And he said, because you won't let go of that. Just that simple, Paul. Because you won't let go of that. Talk about it all the time, how I used to, I would get some recovery up under my belt. I wouldn't even call it recovery. I just call it clean time. I just call it, I wasn't using. I get some time up under my belt where I wasn't using and, I would get healthy again and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that I could go, I fool myself into thinking that I could go around there and hang out, see how people doing, knowing, I'm already knowing how they're doing. They're a mess because they're holding on to that. They still in that. They have, in many cases, and it's not to say anything bad about anybody. Let me say that. Not to say anything bad about anybody. In many cases, the circles that I was in, more people than not had no clue what a this was. I'm going to say that again. Most of the people in the circles that I was a part of more often than not, had no clue what a this is. And again, you wonder why people wasn't pursuing recovery at that time in those circles that I was in, or even in their pursuit of recovery, it wasn't any stability, it wasn't any consistency, because many of us, myself included, had the misconception, all I need to do is not use or drink, and that constitutes recovery. Not true. That's why we keep going back to that. Because the old cliches, just don't use. So how do I do that? How do I do it? No matter what, just don't use. How do I do that? If I don't know anything else, if I haven't been exposed to anything else, if I haven't been taught anything else except just don't use, how do I know how to do it? And so if I haven't been taught, again, because like I said, many of them have no clue what the this is. If I haven't been taught or exposed to or introduced to what this is, how do I know that I need it? How do I know this is going to be useful for me? And so that's that's some of the reasons why we continue to struggle with building a life of recovery. Here's another thing. Many of us, we still like that. We are still married to, we're still attracted to, we're still in bed with that in here. Even though we've been exposed to this, we are still in bed with that. And we don't allow, because, thank you, Holy Spirit, because of the fact that we're still connected, in bed with, and married to that, we only get minimal exposure to this intentionally. Let me say that. I gotta say that one again. We only get minimal exposure to this, and being intentional about that. What did I just say? I used to just do the bare minimum. Just enough to get me by. Just enough for them to hear what they wanted to hear, or what I thought they wanted to hear, or what I thought that they wanted to see. And every single time, because I did that, it took me away from this and put me back over there with that. Every single time. I'm blessed. I am blessed. I am a miracle. Talking on these podcasts right now, I'm a miracle happening. You are looking at a miracle. And why did I say that? Because I did everything that I needed to do to OD and die from the drugs that I was using. I did everything for that to kill me. Yet, I've never OD'd. I've never had to have any shots of Narcan. I've never been hospitalized because of overdosing or anything to that nature. And again, it was absolutely nothing I did that stopped that. It was all him, all God, all God. And I believe one of the reasons why that didn't happen for me, why he stayed the hand of overdose, why he stayed the hand of death. And I'm not saying that I'm more special than anybody else, because I'm sure he's done it for lots of other people as well. It's because he kept showing me this. He kept wanting me to get in this. He kept wanting me to grab a hold of this. He kept wanting me to operate in this. That's one of the reasons why I do these podcasts. That's one of the reasons why I'm a recovery coach. That's one of the reasons why I'm a relationship coach. That's one of the reasons why I am a motivational speaker. Because of his miracles, because of his patience, because of him continuing to show me the picture of my this, I'm sitting here today doing what it is that I'm doing. And I told him, just like I'm telling y'all, because you have done this, because he has done this for me, I'm going to spend the rest of my life telling people about his goodness. From a relationship, a recovery, and a motivational standpoint. And I'm saying to everybody within the sound of my voice, whether you in recovery from whatever it is, drugs, alcohol, pornography, eating, not eating, gambling, whatever, attempts on suicide, whatever you're in recovery for, or whatever you need recovery for, whatever you need to build healthy relationships for, whatever it is that you need to be doing to build those healthy relationships and live a life of recovery, please get someone to help you to do it so you can let go of that and become your this. Because like my pastor always says, somebody is waiting on you to say yes. Somebody is waiting on you to grab this and let go of that. And if we don't do it, if we don't grab this and let go of that, we can't be mad. We can't be hurt when we look at our television and we continue to watch our children, our relatives, our friends, our family, and people that we don't even know die. Many of those things, I'm not saying it's our fault. I'm not saying that we put the stuff in their hands. But I am saying this. Maybe you're this. Just maybe you grabbing a hold of your this would probably help them let go of that. I'm going to say it like this, and then I'm going to end this podcast. It's just that simple, people. You can't have this and that. This is going to help you to live. That's going to kill you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to kill you right away. It can be a fast or a slow death, but it is going to kill you. So let that go. Kill that, get rid of that, divorce that, whatever you need to do, that can get out of your life so that you can get to your this, just like my pastor said. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. Thank y'all so much for listening to my podcast, for supporting my podcast, for just having the capacity to sit and just think about some of the things that I be saying. Again, I'm not saying these things for my health. I'm not saying these for popularity. I'm not doing it for popularity. I'm doing it because I want to see somebody's life saved. That's it. I don't have any other reasons. So whether you like it, comment, post, share, subscribe, or whatever you do, I definitely appreciate it, because what you're doing is helping me to help others to learn how to live. And that's what Kick Your Butt Out podcast is all about. It's about kicking out all of the excuses that stops us from the greatness that God has put inside of us, that stops us from walking in the extraordinary potential that God has put inside of us, that stops us from being who God has called us to be before we were in our mother's womb. With that being said, I'll see you all on the next podcast of Kick Your Butt Out. Until then, as usual, be well, do the next right thing. God bless every last one of you. This is Paul, your hip hop relationship and recovery coach. And if you're looking for a but, it's going to always be easy to find one. I'll see y'all next time.